When you're creating a model using a subdiv workflow, there's a couple of similar methods for creating panel cuts using modifiers, and both have some unique benefits. One way is to mark edges as sharp in edit mode, and then add these modifiers in this order. On the bevel modifier, set miter outer to arc to avoid overhang issues in the corners. Use 1 or 2 segments, depending on what you think looks best. The rest of the modifiers use their default settings. The good thing about this is that it's non-destructive. You can just change which edges are marked as sharp. For diagonal cuts, simply select vertices and press J to join them and then mark as sharp. Similarly, rather than marking edges as sharp, you can select them and then rip them by pressing V. The modifier stack remains the same except for the edge split modifier, which we don't need. What's nice about this ripping method is that it creates these nice rounded panel cut corners. With all these modifiers, to work a bit faster in edit mode, just turn off the option Display Modifier in Edit Mode. By the way, nothing's stopping you from using both methods at the same time. Just mark some edges as sharp for straight panel cuts, and rip other edges so you get nice rounded panel cuts. If you're worried that all this is going to give you very bad or dense geometry, keep in mind that you're going to simply bake the result to a normal map and then use that on the original mesh. Let's look at another quick and easy way of making panel cuts in Blender. Draw some panel cuts using the mask brush with a strength of 1. If the mask is not smooth, make sure you have plenty of geometry. Using the curve stroke method, we can keep everything nice and angular. Control right mouse button drag for curve handles, or Control right mouse button click for sharp angles. Hit enter to draw the mask under the curve. The curve projects the mask from the view, so you can adjust the view to reuse the curve. Set brush size unit to scene to make sure that the radius doesn't change depending on the view. Press A to select all and X to delete the curve if you don't want to reuse its shape. You can also use the line stroke method for quick straight lines. Press Alt E and set the stroke method back to the default dots. Now select the mesh filter and set it to inflate. Invert the mask with Ctrl I and drag the cursor to the left to deflate the unmasked panel cuts. Clear the mask with Alt M, sample the resolution and do a voxel remesh. Then use the mesh filter, set to smooth, to make the edges of the panel cuts less jagged if necessary. Later you can bake this to a normal map and use it on low poly geometry. Here's a quick and easy way to create panel cuts in Blender. First, make sure you have enough subdivisions in your geometry. Also add a multi-res modifier and subdivide it a few times. This way we have enough geometry to work with. In sculpt mode, select the layer brush. Set it to subtract, reduce the height, and then enable persistent and click on Set Persistent Base. This allows you to draw strokes that don't accumulate in height. Press Alt E for the stroke method menu and choose a line. Now we can draw really straight lines. If you want to make sure the radius remains the same when you zoom in or out, set the brush size unit to scene instead of view. Sometimes when you press Ctrl Z, it also undoes the Set Persistent Base. If that happens, just click on it again. In my opinion, doing this in sculpt mode is the most fun and easy way to do this. If you don't want to mess with the dense high poly meshes required for painting a fine mask, painting panel cuts directly on a normal map is also possible. For this I recommend installing the free extension UQ Paint. Then click on Quick UQ Paint Node Setup. Add a new image, choose Normal and a high enough resolution. In texture paint mode, you can now paint depth on the surface. With the line or curve stroke methods, you can paint panel cuts. Now to bake this to a real normal map texture, select the normal channel, click on this gear icon and choose Bake Normal Channel. Once it's baked, you can save the normal map image texture. If there are some parts where afterwards you want to erase them or blur them, you can open the normal map texture in the image viewer and then set it to paint mode. Pick the neutral color from the normal map texture and paint directly on the normal map or on the model in the 3D viewport. And of course, save the image again to save the changes. Placing details on a surface is easy with the Instances on Elements modifier, which was added in Blender 5.0. First, create a vertex group and add some vertices to it. Add the Instances on Elements modifier to the object and select the detail that you want to place on the surface. Then pick the vertex group in the Mask field. Adjust the scale as needed. You can also add objects to a collection and then use that collection in the modifier. Enable Pick Instance to make sure that it's placed correctly. If there's a gap between the surface and the instances, you can use the surface offset to close the gap. Add and remove from the vertex group to place more or less details. You can also edit the vertex group in weight paint mode, with a strength of 2 and overlays disabled. Now you have a nice interactive and non-destructive method for adding details. Before baking this to a normal or height map, make sure Realize Instances is enabled, otherwise the instances won't show up on the baked texture. For more hard surface tips, check out my complete hard surface bundle on 3dsecrets.com.